Hey folks, just wanted to give you a brief unscripted update at the beginning of this video. You may notice that this post is one, late, and two, not up to the usual standard of quality that I would like my videos to be at. That's because I am shooting, editing, and uploading this to YouTube entirely from my phone because my laptop is on its last legs. It had been slow for the past year. I had been using it for the past 5 since I was a senior in high school. But today I discovered that the battery has lost the ability to hold any charge at all and is in fact just kept barely alive by plugging the thing into the wall. But it's that kind of jittery experience that Mac owners will recognize from having a laptop that's on quite low battery. So I've decided that instead of getting a replacement battery for several $100s just to keep the thing alive and slow for several more months, I'm probably going to need to upgrade to a new laptop. This will be very expensive and take some time, so the next few videos will probably have to be shot from this phone. Thank you for bearing with me during this process. And of course, thank you for the wonderful positive response I've received so far from these videos. Yeah. Now on to the scripted portion of today's content. Hello, I hope your past week has been stellar. If it's your first time here, my name is Ochrence. I'm a recently converted Angelino who programs computers by day and tries to develop an on-camera personality by night, and you're in the Rec Room, a place where instead of foosball tables, there's a guy in the corner who you just can't get away from ranting to you about how great the latest Mid-Air Thief album was. Basically, I just make and listen to a lot of music in my spare time, and this is a place where I share my best eclectic finds from the past week with viewers like you. If you've been following the show for as long as it's been going, which is not very long, you might have noticed that this week's video is a little bit delayed. That's partially because I was studying fun questions like, how far can you park away from railroad tracks to pass a knowledge test and get my California driver's license so I can vote here instead of Maine. I will be more timely in most videos, but this is just kind of one of those things that I had to do. Now, in the interest of wasting as little time as possible, let's dive into this week's list of top tracks. In the interest of catching up to my schedule as well, this video will feature only 5 tracks of the 10 I originally picked, and you'll hear about the following 5 next week. Our first pick this week comes from rapper, producer, skateboarder, and model Sage Elsesser, aka Navy Blue, who just dropped a really interesting album the other week called Alderaan. An online translation tool tells me that that title means something like steel tool or steel machete in the Yoruba language, which I'll take with a grain of salt. But anyway, the song is called In Good Hands and features veteran Brownsville-based MC Ka, whom Earl Sweatshirt once claimed on Twitter to be the best rapper around. This is modern New York rap of the experimental sort, maybe in the veins of Billy Woods, Elucid, or Mike. Chopped, screwed, minimal, tripped-out beats abound under lyrical passages dense with highbrow wordplay and clever references. This track is pretty simple in musical structure. There's a looped electric organ sample, a bass line, and glitchy drums. Atop that is a verse from Navy Blue, a refrain, a verse from Ka, and then a refrain again to close things out. The bars are a reflection on how we're all influenced by our cultural roots and formative experiences throughout our entire lives. Navy Blue talks about losing a brother while surrounded by the Santeria religion and culture of his father, who denies the loss, while Ka spins an extended metaphor comparing a young life on the streets to warfare and discussing what he's done to better the world as he's grown older. There's a common theme here of striving for goodness and finding closure that's pretty empowering. Overall, a great song from a very solid album. Since I like to keep this list as consistently varied as possible, our next track is going to be from an entirely different musical tradition, Ann Arbor, Michigan-based emo band Dogleg with the song Star 67 off of their 2016 EP Remember Alderaan. These folks just came back with a new single called Kawasaki Backflip after some time off recording, so I thought to celebrate that, we'd try to dig into a classic track from them. Now, when I think of this type of music, I imagine a sort of idealized adolescence in suburban middle America. You know, having summer barbecues, passing notes to crushes in high school classes you're not really paying attention to, and, of course, forming a lo-fi rock group with your buddies to have an outlet for your existential angst. You know, the kind of angst that comes from thinking about how this last little fleeting remainder of youth might be the best time you'll ever have in your life. Okay, that got dark. So, this is a good song. It's sort of anthemic. You start out with this quiet, noodly, slightly out of tune, but in an adorable way, guitar riff over the chord progression that has made so many sentimental punk songs over the years. 1, 5, 4, and you think it's going to be a quiet song, but it's not, because out of nowhere comes this massive stereo-filling guitar wall. The verses are sort of talk, scream singing about turning back the clock to the good old days and asking the person addressed in the lyrics, do you know how to feel? And then in the chorus section, you get this really nice shout along, can we have your name? Over and over again in a sincerely cathartic way. It just gets me right here, folks, and I don't think I'm the only one. Our following song comes from an artist whom I was very happy to catch live the other week at Blue Whale, an indispensable jazz club on the Los Angeles scene. Otmaro Ruíz, who was born in Venezuela but is now an Angelino himself, made his name playing with eminent figures like Arturo Sandoval and Alex Acuna. He's a tremendous pianist who demonstrates an incredible range of techniques and styles on the keys whenever he plays. What people may not know, though, is that he's also quite the composer, and at the show where I saw him, he was indeed throwing out original chart after original chart of neat material. Of course, when I got home, I had to check out his latest CD entitled Elemental, that came out in 2018. This is a three-piece combo he has here playing his original charts, featuring percussionist Jimmy Branley and bassist Jimmy Haslip. One track that particularly intrigued me towards the back half is called Part-Time Smart. It's a snappy little number with constantly shifting chords and very syncopated beats whose head explores a type of scale popular in flamenco, Indian, and Middle Eastern music. You first get a more subdued solo from Jimmy H after the head, then Otmaro shows up and displays his talents on piano pretty damn well, in a way reminiscent of how he played the night I saw him. Jimmy B, the drummer, has a nice little break on the last portion of the track too. It's a lot of fun. I've listened to our next band so many times that I could probably talk about them with my eyes closed, but I wrote a script for them anyways because I'm not a fan of peppering my video essays with unnecessary ums and uhs. This is Root Vegetable Soup, a song by Brooklyn post-punk and anti-folk group You Do off of their debut studio album, Supine Butterfly. You Do is a group I found in Bandcamp's new releases section back when they put out their very first EP at the beginning of 2018. This is back when I had my radio show and I really enjoyed their work, so I put them on air quite a bit. After some chaos caused some plans to have them play on my college campus to fall through, I finally caught them live in October of last year and got a chance to hang out with the band's frontman, a very talented musician and songwriter and all-around nice dude named Christian Bryan. Now, Christian has an incredibly distinctive stream of consciousness writing style that frequently uses animals and food to whimsically explore the world around him. His songs operate within stylistic parameters for modern rock for sure, but are quite varied, often charging fearlessly into many different dynamics and chord progressions and not looking back. This particular song, containing all those elements and more, is a rollicking swing-time tune in which Christian complains about presumably relationship issues in a very abstract and entertaining way. The central riff of the song is incredibly catchy, and you're probably going to be humming it uncontrollably after you hear it. It's bent to the will of the specific lyrics so well that it never gets repetitive, though. This one I'd recommend putting on a nice weekend afternoon playlist. Our final track from this mini update takes us from 2018 back to 1983, which is somehow 37 years ago. Here we have Marie and the Atom, an avant folk band from Dunedin, New Zealand, with Isol from the inventive and experimental Yellow Red Aloud EP. Marie and the Atom were not around longer than 1985, but put out some really great and challenging music during their brief time together. They were part of a music scene known as the Dunedin Sound, which for many years in the 80s and 90s released some of the best and most underappreciated independent music releases that I've ever heard. Central to this scene was the label Flying Nun Records, which released a compilation called Tuatara in 1985, featuring some of the most classic early tracks, including this one in this music scene. Now, this song mostly eschews the usual rock instruments of guitar and drums, and instead prominently features keyboards and bass synths, all in a soup of tape-looped string instruments demonstrating numerous extended techniques. It really pulls you into its own world rather aggressively, and the glue that binds it all together is the approachable vocal passages. The beautifully sung lyrics are about a person feeling lost, confused, and betrayed in the world, wondering if there's anyone who will fish her out of the sea. They suit the instrumental incredibly well. A few years ago, there were talks of a reissue for some of this band's work. I'm greatly hoping that this eventually happens because this band really deserves some rediscovery. And that's it, my not-so-long list of top tracks for this past week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please feel free to check out the description below for links to all these songs and more, and make sure to subscribe to this channel if you enjoy hearing me talk at you about music like this. If you want me to listen to a track that you think I should discuss or have feedback on this new and still evolving series, slide it into the comments or send me a message. If you want to listen to some music that I've made, please go to ochrence.com or search that name on your favorite streaming platform. Once again, this has been The Rec Room with your host, Ochrence. Until next time, have a good one.